Thank you, Mr. Mayor Pahal. We're ready to go.
Thank you very much, and welcome to the Monday, September 23rd regular council meeting. Want to, of course, start in a good way and acknowledge that we here are all gathered and Langley City is on the unceded and traditional territory of the Katzie, Montland, Mathaqui, and Semiahmoo First Nations. Before we get into the meeting, just for anybody who happens to be in attendance to watching these proceedings, welcome. Just a reminder to keep your mic off and camera off while you are attending. If you are here for a presentation, I don't think we have anybody here for a presentation today. We'll ask you to go off the camera and then turn it on and then we can hear you. So with that, we do have the agenda in front of us. Is there any changes anybody would like to make to the agenda? So seeing none, would anybody like to move the agenda of the September 23rd meeting? So moved by Councillor White, seconded by Councillor Solium. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? So that's carried unanimously. Hello, Councillor Wallace. Great to see you. We are just in the consent agenda, so we have adopted the agenda. I'll just check that you can hear us and that we can hear you. Perfect. So we have the consent agenda. Does anybody like to remove anything from it? Would anybody like to move the consent agenda? So moved by Councillor Albrecht, seconded by Councillor Mack. Further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? So it's carried unanimously. We are at our council member report 5A. We do have another meeting like this on October 7th. We may have another meeting in this format or back at City Hall on October 21st to be determined. On to council advisory updates. Most of us were at UBCM last week, so that's the Union of BC Municipalities Convention. Our council actually submitted 4 resolutions, and that goes from the Lower Mainland Local Government Association, of which we're a part of, and all municipalities are part of area associations, and then they get fed up to UBCM for debate by all locally elected folks in municipalities and regional districts. And I also understand there are First Nations that take part as well in a nation to, I guess, local government context at UBCM as well. So we had 4 that we put forward at the Lower Mainland LGA. They were endorsed. They were around provincial resources for pre-medical care or MESA calls when firefighters respond to medical emergencies. We had another one regarding financial supports for implementation of the provincial housing legislation that is recent. Another one for expanding access to court service. For example, there are no courts in Langley, which is really surprising. And, I'm from the Okanagan, and there is Supreme Courts and provincial courts in Kelowna, Penticton, and Vernon. All 3 of those municipalities have court services. So, we really do need to see that expanded out where we are. And then another very important one about Hearth and Heart, which is about expanding access for folks who are experiencing homelessness. It's been targeting communities with encampments. We've been pretty proactive with encampments. Regardless, folks still need help in our community. So the UBCM membership agreed with our resolution calling on the provincial government to expand access to the Heart and Hearth program to provide housing and supports for people experiencing homelessness. For also with the medical calls that our fire service responds to, that the provincial government provide adequate supports for us providing that pre-medical care. And of course, for the expansion of court services, because whether you're in Bellacoola or in Langley, you need access to a court. Unfortunately, the membership did not entirely agree about the exact wording of the resolution around support for implementation of the provincial housing legislation. So I hope we can bring that back next year for further discussion. Am I missing anything? No, that's great. And I just wanted to thank everybody who's been a part of this. I know every member of council has worked really hard. We also had meetings with provincial ministers as well, just advocating on behalf of residents and businesses in our community. And I don't know if Councillor Wallace, if you'd like to talk about this, not to put you on the spot, but this is very exciting.
Sure. Yeah, we I guess you have it in front of you and I don't have that in front of you, but I got to be a part of a great celebration with the McDonald's in Langley City that has raised the most money per capita in selling their McHappy Meals, which helps to go to Ronald McDonald House where parents can come and stay with their children when they're ill. And what I found out is that from the manager that a lot of those families actually come from the Langleys and are able to do that. So I think they said they raised $100 million in 10 years for the Ronald McDonald House. So I do have a trophy. I'm away right now, but I do have a trophy for the city that was gifted to the city, and they're very grateful to the city and council's support. And I'm very grateful for them and the amount of work they've done in our community when it comes to Foundry, the Hospital Foundation, and many other things. So I just want to congratulate them on being awarded that. So, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wallace. And then is there any other updates from members of council for things they've attended in which we don't have minutes for? So I'm not seeing any, so we'll just move on to bylaws. Item 6A, it is his third reading for a zoning bylaw amendment. So the recommendation is that the bylaw cited as zoning bylaw 1996, number 2100, amendment 211, 2024, number 3291 be read a third time. Is there a mover? Moved by Councillor Albrecht, seconded by Councillor Solium. Any further discussion? So I'm seeing none. I'll call the question. All those in favor? Is there any opposed? So it's opposed by Councillor Mack and opposed by Councillor White, so it is carried. We are now on to item 7A, which is the notice of motion and motions. There is a proposed recommendation to update the motion we adopted last week, and that's regarding solid waste. So it's just moving it forward another meeting, and that's a procedural thing to make sure it doesn't die, but that we continue to move forward as we have those important discussions about solid waste management in our community. So would anybody like to move the recommendation that's presented on our agenda? So moved by Councillor Wallace, seconded by Councillor Albrecht. Is there any further discussion? So seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? So that's carried unanimously. We're at adjournment. Don't leave quite yet. So I'll move that the meeting adjourned, seconded by Councillor Solium. I'll call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? So that's carried unanimously. So Ms. Cusack, I'll let you stop the recording, and just council, please hang tight.